Okay, so we went through reference questions, we went through sentence simplification questions, right? After that, we
Mm-hmm.
have to cover. Just one second. My laptop got stuck again. Okay, we finished sentence simplification question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Next
Yes.
is inference question, where we have to make sure that we go through. Okay, we had done this also, where we go through the passage and look for something that is not explicitly mentioned in the paragraph, but what does it try to imply? That's what we have to go through and try to understand. So they won't use direct words over there, they will use some indirect words. Okay, that's what we have to make sure that we go through and we understand, and then we select the option accordingly. And this is where we would need to spend a little extra time to make sure that the option that we have selected is the correct option. Okay, because there might be so many things that the options might talk about, so we just need to make sure that it's correct. Okay, next we have rhetorical purpose question. Now rhetorical purpose question, rhetoric is basically when you speak or write effectively. It's the art of writing or speaking effectively. Now in factual information question, we are usually asked what information the author has presented. Correct. Now in rhetorical question, you are asked why the author has presented a particular piece of information in a particular place or manner. Okay, now over here they ask you to, basically you have to make sure that you've understood, and that's what they are trying to gauge over here, whether you have understood the function of the statement or the paragraph as it relates to the whole passage. So over here you will be asked how one paragraph relates to another. For example, the second paragraph may give examples to support a statement in the first paragraph. Now, the answer choices may be expressed in general terms. For example, a theory is explained and then illustrated. Okay, in terms they are specific to the passage. The author explains, say, the categories of adaptation of to deserts by mammals and then gives the examples for it. So, in a rhetorical purpose question, they also might ask you why the author quotes a particular person, or why the author mentions a particular piece of information. Example, they might just give you a part of the sentence by saying, why does the author mention the ability to grasp a pencil? Okay, and the correct answer, it is an example to motor skills developed by children between 10 to 11 months of age. So that would be a correct answer over here. Why the ability to grasp a pencil is given. Okay. When you're talking about, say, motor skills, the whole passage might be talking about how the development of children happens, right? So that's something that you should understand and gauge the answer correctly over there. Okay. Over here, the question might look like the author discusses, say, topic X in paragraph 2 in order to, and then you would be given four options. Why does the author mention, like this, a sentence would be given. Why does the author compare, say, X to Y, a topic X to topic Y? And then you have to answer it correctly. Okay, now over here it becomes very very important that you understand the definitions of the words and phrases which are being used. For example, if we talk about the word grasp, you should know the meaning of the word grasp over here. If you don't know the meaning of the word grasp, then you might not understand what it means. Grasp means hold, right? The child holds the pencil in his hand, so it's very very important that the child, or even we, hold the pencil correctly in order to write. When we hold it correctly, it shows that, okay, when we talk about child development in psychology, it basically talks about how the motor skills are developed. If they are not able to hold properly, that means the motor skills are developing a little slow. That's what it means, right? So you should understand the meaning of the word grasp over here. All the other words, I feel it might be easy for you, but just giving you a gist of say these kind of words might be used. Other words that you should know is when they ask rhetorical purpose question, they might ask such kind of words, okay, to illustrate, to contrast, to refute, to note, to criticize. Now, in the option, if you see, it is an example of motor skill developed. So it's given easily over here. But when we do the question, you might see that they would give options by saying to criticize, to illustrate, right? That means to explain something, right? To explain, it's given already. To contrast, that means to show the differences. Then comes to refute, to note, and to criticize. So you should know the meanings of these words also. Now, rhetorical purpose questions usually do not ask about the overall organization of the reading passage. Instead, they typically focus on the logical links between the sentences and paragraphs. Okay, so that is how this type of question will be. Again, these are the types of questions you would need to spend extra time. These wouldn't get solved in say 20 seconds, 15 seconds. You would need to spend say around 30-45 seconds with these questions. Okay, because you need to make sure again that you have grasped them correctly. Now, this is the sentence which is highlighted over here. Now, quickly read the paragraph.
I read it.
Okay, now let's try answering the questions. Now see the words over here which are used in the options: to provide an example, to argue that, to contrast the relative sophistication, to note an exceptional piece of art.
It's A.
A, okay,
Yes.
correct. Okay, to provide an example of a problem related to the laws of physics that a fine artist must overcome. Okay, very good. You are able to understand. Next, you have insert text question. Now, insert text question, the way I told you, it will always be your question number 9. Okay, now again, when you talk about insert text question, you will need to know the whole passage for it. You will need to go through the passage in advance for that. Okay, and when you add this sentence in the place, you have to make sure that you do not change the meaning of the whole organization of the passage. Okay, that is the reason it becomes important that you place it correctly. Another thing that you need to understand over here is that when you insert the sentence, okay, read the sentence, read the paragraph once again, make sure it connects properly. Now, most of the times I would say it will be very easy because the words, the connecting words which have been used are quite easy to understand and quite easy to put them in a place. Okay, but sometimes there are no connecting words. That's where it gets difficult. Okay, so here you will get, say, you have to identify over here, and you have to, there will be a square given over there. Okay, and you have to click on the square. That's where your sentence goes. Again, you will have four options, you will have four squares, and you will get one sentence. So you have to place that sentence out of these four in one place. Okay, this is how your screen would look for this question. So basically this sentence has been given over here. This made it easy for artists to paint and display them for the rest of the cave dwellers. So what do you think, where would this sentence fit? Now here we know this made it easy for the artists. So it's not a starting part. It's somewhere in between. We know that. Okay. So try inserting it.
Is it C, like the
I
natural light?
I feel it should be here. We don't have the answer for this exactly, but I think it
Mm-hmm.
should be here. D. Okay. Why? Because if we try to put it in C, the previous sentence also starts with this. Again, we can't have two sentences starting with this. So this eliminates your B and C. A, it doesn't fit somehow. So I feel it should go here, but we don't have answer for this. But this is how it would look. Okay. When taking the TOEFL ability test, try the sentence in each of the places. The way I told you, try to fit them into each of the places and read the previous and the next sentence after it and see if it makes the organization correct. The way I told you over here, the previous sentence also starts with this. So that's why it can't go before this also and it can't go after the sentence also. So you will need to make sure the organization is correct. Okay, you can place and replace the sentences as many times as you want. So it doesn't mean that, okay, if you select over here, then you can't select this after that. You can do it multiple times. Once you have done next and submitted, that's only when it will get submitted. Okay, now look at the structures of the sentence you're inserting. The way I told you, it starts with this over here. So we understand it's an example. Okay, we can't put it at the start and we can't put it at the end as well, because end should always have words like finally, as a result, therefore, since. All these come to conclude the sentence, correct, conclude the paragraph. So that is how we can understand where it would go. If we have the word starting with, say, on the other hand, further or furthermore, similarly, for example, then it won't come at the start of the sentence, it will be somewhere in between. Okay, it won't come at the start of the paragraph, it will be somewhere in between. That's how you can gauge. Okay, make sure that the inserted sentence connects logically to both the sentence before it and the sentence after it, and any pronouns agree with the nouns that they refer to. Again, that also something that you should make sure. We have already discussed that nouns and pronouns, what they are. Correct? Now let's try over here. Now here we won't have boxes, here we just have A, B, C, D. So you will have to select A, B, C, D. But in the actual test there will be boxes which you will be selecting. Okay.
I think it's the same question.
Mm-hmm. So,
So
mm-hmm.
it's the
D. Okay.
yeah.
Now here the answer is A actually. Okay. Why? It goes over here before cave paintings. One of the most puzzling aspects of the paintings is their location. Other rock paintings, for example, those of Bushmen in South Africa, are either located near cave entrances or completely in the open. This made it easy for the artists to paint and display them for the rest of the cave dwellers. And cave paintings in France, that's how it goes on. Okay. Now, the sentence makes sense only if it occurs after sentence 2 in the paragraph. The author contrasts the location of rock art in South Africa, which tends to be placed near cave entrances or in the open, with the location of rock art in Spain and France, which tends to be deep inside a cave. The text is about a factor, that means it starts with this, that would have made rock art easy for the artist to paint and display for others. Being near a cave entrance or in the open is such a factor, so the inside text must be placed after a sentence about rock art in such locations. That's why it goes over there. Okay, understood? Now we have the last question over here, that is your prose summary question. So this is basically a summary of the whole passage that you are going to do over here. Now here, two things that you need to understand and two things that you need to remember. Okay, first, that you need to know the whole passage for this, and based on the whole passage you will get six options. Okay, out of six options you have to select three correct options. Okay, out of six you have to select three correct options, which will help you to summarize the whole passage. Okay, this is how it would look. Usually in the exam you have to drag the sentences, okay, on the computer. Basically, if you have to select option this, you will drag it over here. Okay, now first sentence will always be given, so you have to select sentence number 2, sentence number 3 and sentence number 4, which will summarize the whole passage. Again, when it summarizes, it shouldn't miss out on any important ideas in the passage. You need to make sure about that. Okay, some sentences do not belong in the summary because they express the ideas that are not presented in the passage, or they are very minor ideas in the passage. That is the reason they are not very important. So we have to only select which are relevant and which will help us to summarize the whole passage. Okay, with the important elements of it. Now, I already told you there will be six options like this, and you have to select three correct options. Now, this question is worth 2 points. All the previous questions, they are worth 1 point. Only this question, it is worth 2 points. Okay, now thing that you have to remember over here is, if you select all three correctly, then you get whole 3 points. 2 points, sorry. Whole 2 points. If you select only two correct answers, then you get 1 point. Okay, but if you select only one correct option and say two are incorrect, then you get 0. Okay, so you have to make sure that you select all of them correctly, but if not possible, at least two correctly, because this score, if we get 0 over here, it totally changes your scale. Okay, it drastically reduces your score. So insert text question and prose summary questions are very, very, very important. If you go wrong in them, then your score totally changes. It's like a game changer, we can say. Okay, that's the reason. Now read the passage and let's try to attempt this question.
Can you go down?
Sure.
I read it.
Okay. Finish the whole thing.
Yes.
Okay. Now try to answer. Just give me 1 second, okay? Done?
Are you here?
Yes, yes, I'm here.
I think it's A, C, and F.
A, C, and F. Now the correct choices are A, that's correct. C is also correct, and F is also correct. Very good. You get 2 whole points over here. Okay, why choice B and D and other choices are incorrect have been given over here. When you sit to study, make sure you go through it. Just understand why it was incorrect. Okay, now some strategies that they have given for reading. Now I would say the main strategy is, of course, you have to practice. Okay, you have to practice. There is no easy way of doing it. You have to practice on everyday basis as much as possible. There are around 9 passages given over here in this practice set, so make sure you attempt at least one in 2 days. Okay, of course we would be conducting the mock tests also, so that is where you will be practicing the whole sets also. Now, along with that, question types become very important. Of course, when you are attempting the passages in the exam, the question types are not labeled. Okay, they won't tell you this is question type 1, question type 2. You should be able to understand and gauge. Now, why they become important? We understand how much time we should spend with each one of them, and what they are trying to understand over here. That is how it becomes important. But of course, you don't need to remember each type of question. Okay, you just need to understand according to each type of question where I will find the information and what they are trying to ask over here. Okay, that is how it becomes important. The way I told you previously, you don't need any previous knowledge of that topic on which you are going to read the passage. The way you read the passage right now, You might not know about art, anything outside the passage. It's fine. They only expect you to understand the passage. Okay, now of course, when you go on the internet, you might get a lot of resources which you could use to do practice on daily basis. Of course, you have test ready over there. Also, they put up a passage on everyday basis, like sometimes it's reading, sometimes it's listening, sometimes it's speaking, so you get practice over there also. But very rarely they put up 10 questions. Sometimes they have only 5 6 questions, so it doesn't give you real life gist of how it will be in the actual test, but at least you know how the passages would be, the difficulty of the passage, the difficulty level of the passage, right? That's how it becomes helpful. Now, when you read, of course we are going to practice it, but when you read, it also becomes important that you understand how to scan and how to skim. Now, when you scan, you look for the keywords and you go through it quickly. When you skim through it, you are just looking for particular information in that. Okay, so there is a difference between scanning and skimming. So when you do reading also, when you do academic reading for your own college also, for your own university also currently, I would say, see how much time you spend in a reading one chapter or reading one unit or reading one page also, I would say. You shouldn't spend more than 2 3 minutes, okay, for 600 700 words, the way we have patches it right now. That is how time you should spend. Along with that, you should be able to highlight the key facts which have been mentioned. What are the key facts? The dates, the numbers, the terms which have been used, and the other information which has been given. Okay, that is how your reading rate improves, and this becomes helpful even in academic, okay, when we study in the university. It's very very important. Then, whenever we are reading, it's not important that you read each and every word. No. For example, say we are reading this sentence. What are the words that we'll focus on? Carefully reading, we'll just look at it, each word, each sentence. Practice, skimming, quickly, general impression, main idea. We are looking just at keywords. We are not reading each and every word over here because our brain knows how to gauge that information, even if we don't read each and every word over here. Okay, so again, we need to practice skimming quickly and identify the major points over here. After skimming a passage, read it again more carefully and write down the main idea. So this is when you're practicing, not in the actual test, okay? When you're practicing. So, after skimming a passage, read again more carefully and write down the main ideas, the major points, the important facts which have been mentioned. That is how you will understand how to find the answers to your questions. Okay, choose some unfamiliar words in the passage. Try to understand their meaning, what it might mean. You might not know the meaning, but try to gauge the meaning without using a dictionary first. Once you have understood it from the context, you know what it could mean, then you go to Google and check whether the meaning that you had gauged was correct or incorrect. Okay, that's something that you can do. When you're reading, look at the pronouns also, the way they are being used, the words like he, him, they. Identify to which noun it is being referred. Okay, that is very very important for our reference based question. Now, understand and try to make inferences also and make conclusion also on what it might mean in the sentence which is not given directly in front of you, but what it could mean. That also becomes important. Now, for the question number 3 that you have, that is reading to learn, the last two questions that we have, it becomes important to make the outline of the passage where you understand what are the major points and the minor points. Even if you don't write it down on the paper, it's fine, but just try to make a mind map of it and try to understand what are the major points and what are the minor points. Okay, then you can use other skills also over here also, but it needs a little bit of time and you don't have a lot of time, so I wouldn't ask you to get into it. But something that you should practice from this is paraphrasing, because that will become very important for you in writing, in the writing task 1 that we have. Over there also you have a reading passage and you have to write based on that reading passage plus the lecture. So the art of paraphrasing is very, very important for us on how we can paraphrase. Of course, I'm going to help you with that, but you can try practicing a little bit on your own also. When we paraphrase, the keywords might remain as it is, but we try to change all the other words which are being used. Okay, we can make active sentences into passive sentences. That is also something that we can do. Okay, so these are few things that you should try when you do the reading practice. Okay, now we will stop over here for today. You have already done practice set 1, right? You've already done it. Okay, great. Did
Yes.
you check your answers?
Yep.
Okay, how many did you get correct?
7.
7 out of 11. 7 out of 10.
Yeah. 10.
Okay. And what about
Yeah.
the last question? How many did
I
you get
made
correct?
I made 2 correct and
Hmm.
1 incorrect.
Okay, one incorrect. So, did you try to convert the scores? How many scores did you get out of 11?
S- Out of 11, I got 7.
Okay, out of 11, you got a score of 7. I would say that's a good score, depending on your score that is required, that is above 80, so around
Mm-hmm.
90. So, I would say it's fine if you get 7 correct, but we have to try at least that we get 8 to 9 correct. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
because reading and listening is where you can score very nicely. Okay,
Yeah.
where there is very little scope of losing out on scores, because in speaking and writing you might lose out some scores based on the grammatical errors, or say how you say the sentences, or how you write something. You're in writing also, there are chances if you have a lot of typos, right? If you make a lot of spelling mistakes, if you use don't use the punctuations properly, that's where you could lose out on your scores. But reading and listening, there is no margin of error as such. Correct? You just have to make sure that you correct select the correct option. So that's why we have to try that we get good score in these sections. Okay, it will help you to balance your score. Now, along with that, when I say this, it's also important that you make sure you know what does your university require based in each section. Okay, now some universities have a criteria that okay, they need score above 80, but in each section, that is your each module, that is a reading, listening, your score should not be below 20. Okay, it should, in speaking you should have at least 23, 24. So they also have such criteria, so make sure you know that criteria. And if you know, do share that with me also, so when we conduct mock tests I would know where we have to focus then.
Mm.
Okay, I
Okay.
don't think you should face any issue in speaking because you speak very well. Very minor grammatical errors which we are going to work on. Okay, now only thing that I need to understand is writing. So next session that we are going to do a little bit of writing practice. So I'll have to see if you make any mistakes in writing as such. That's where we need to work. Yes, you make minor errors in tenses, so we are going to work on tenses. Okay, that's something that we are going
Okay.
to do. Now, any questions you have, anything that you did not understand, or anything that you want to ask?
It's all clear.
All clear. Okay, great. So now your task is today you're going to go through the reading chapter once again. Make sure you know the question types and how to find that information, and try to attempt reading set 2, practice set 2. Okay.
Okay.
Along with that, go through speaking chapter. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking or writing. I would say writing. Go through writing first,
Okay.
because I said we'll discuss writing in the next session, right? So go through the writing chapter. Okay, that will be your chapter number. One second.
Okay.
Chapter number 5. That is your writing section. So go through that. Of course, we are going to practice on it. I'm going to explain it. I have already explained it in brief, but I'm going to elaborate more on it in the next session. And mostly, I would say how the responses are scored. What is the rubric? That's something that you should go through for task 1 as well as task 2. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because you should know when you could lose your scores. Okay? That's the
Okay.
reason. So just make sure you go through it once. Yeah? Okay, we will stop here for today and I will see you tomorrow at the same time then.
See you. Thanks.
See you. Bye bye. Take care. Have a nice day ahead.
Thanks.